Okay, so we all know Rex is basically the strongest character in Future Redeemed, and because of that, I wanted to waste no time getting into a video about this behemoth of a man. I cannot even begin to describe how much fun I had using him and how broken he felt the entire time I have been playing. This is a perfect homage to Xenoblade 2 and how Mythra felt in that game the first time I played it, and I'm a huge fan of how it comes together to make one of the strongest characters in the history of the franchise. In this video, we will be covering Rex, how to build him, talking about strengths and weaknesses, and showcasing how I believe to use him most effectively. If you enjoy my guides and want to see more Xenoblade 3 guides in the future, please be sure to subscribe to the channel because it does really help me out so much. Let's get into this. So, because you cannot change any character's class at all like the base game, every character ends up being entirely unique this time around. So every character is going to have their own unique complete skill sets, and that's going to make them stand out entirely based on what kind of abilities they have to offer. For Rex, he offers very high attacking and critical hit stats, especially if you are active in keeping up your weapon levels. Make sure you are leveling up your weapon in Colony 9. It can get you some really powerful stats very quickly, and the higher it goes, the stronger you get. I have 1600 attack at only level 88, and I don't even have anything higher than a silver belt to increase my attack stat right now, and 65% critical hit rate with no critical hit increases, which is pretty impressive for this. Or at least no critical hit increases that aren't part of the skills he has to offer. Speaking of which, I want to take a look at his skills now because those are the most important aspect of his kit and what makes him so strong, even more so than his arts. His first skill is Raging Flame. This will boost damage dealt by 8% when landing a critical hit, up to a maximum of 150%. This is a really powerful skill because it gives you 150% added to damage very quickly because you can easily stack this up in only a few hits since Rex has a lot of multi-hits. Even his auto attack is a 2-hit, so you get 16% just based from that alone a lot of the time. And most of your arts, like I said, there will be multi-hits, so you'll be able to stack this up incredibly quickly, get a free 150% damage boost, and just do a ton of damage basically all the time throughout combat. He also has Lightspeed Blade. On critical, he will ignore enemy defense. So this means no matter the defensive stats of an enemy, he is always going to ignore it if he lands a critical hit. Combined with a high critical hit rate, this is very powerful. I know there's one super boss in the game that has extremely high defense, so being able to just basically pierce that constantly with every single attack you do based on your high critical hit rate is extremely powerful as an effect. It's really useful against basically every enemy in the game except for enemies that have basically no physical defense or negative physical defense, then you're not going to get a ton of benefit out of that. But that's not even the only benefit of this skill. You also increase critical hit damage bonus by 50 percentage points. This means that if your crits normally do 25% more damage, now they'll do 75% more damage because it's adding 50 percentage points to that total. And that is extremely impactful for someone that crits as much as Rex. It's also an independent multiplier to your added to damage increases, so this just makes him extremely strong just with basically all of his attacks. Heroic Spirit is a skill that if an ally is down or has low health, you'll deal 150% more damage and take 30% less damage. This will actually end up being in effect a lot more often than you think it will. It's very easy for just a single ally to have low health, and even if it's not in effect, you'll still have a ton of damage anyway. Taking 30% less damage is also really nice because Rex has a tendency to steal aggro very easily from the tanks, and there's not really a ton of things you can do about it because he just does so much damage compared to anyone else in the game, and there's not enough aggro reduction effects to really make a difference, so I don't even worry about those mostly. This is probably his weakest skill overall, but it's still a pretty powerful skill in the right scenarios. His final skill is Flash and Flame. This will increase critical rate by 20 percentage points, so that takes it from 45 to 65 base critical hit rate, and critical hit damage by another 50 percentage points. This means that all of Rex's critical hits, of which he'll be landing very, very often, will always do more than double damage, dealing 2.25 the normal amount, and also always penetrate defense, so you'll even get more damage on top of that. There's also some additional skills that don't seem quite as unique, but also have a noticeable impact. For one, Rex will increase the chain gauge upon art execution, so that's pretty nice to do more chain attacks, especially when you can spam arts as quickly as Rex thanks to some other abilities he has. He has a 1% chance to instantly defeat enemies at 30% health or lower, which can be nice against certain mobs. He has Unblockable. This is a very good skill. It makes sure every attack he deals can never be blocked, no matter what, which is actually really powerful as an effect, especially combined with a defense pierce. It means no enemy, no matter what they're doing, is ever going to be able to block his attacks or really defend at all against him. He's always going to be doing the full amount of his damage basically no matter what, which is just incredible. Enemy count damage up, so essentially if you're in a multi-enemy fight, Rex gets even more damage, up to 200% additional damage, making him even more powerful in multi-enemy fights. And then just a general flat 10% critical rate up and attack boost 10%. These are percentage increases, so they're not as impactful as just a flat percentage point increase. But still really strong effects nonetheless. If you are still earlier in the game and leveling up characters' affinities, I would definitely recommend investing in Rex's skills. These are some of the strongest effects he has. And if you are going to invest in any art, invest in Double Spinning Edge. Once you get it to this recharge gauge of 4, it is extremely easy to be able to basically fully recharge it with just a few critical hits. And you don't even need any kind of other art recharge increase on this. It can still easily cancel into itself once you get enough crit rate going, especially when combined with some other party bonus effects that you can easily have access to. Make sure to prioritize his ability that increases his flat critical hit rate and critical hit damage up. I think that's probably going to be the most universally useful skill. But it's also really nice to be able to ignore enemy defense and also get another flat 50 percentage points to your crit increase. The Raging Flame doesn't matter as much since you can always max out at 150%, so that's probably the least priority as far as the skills you're going to want to get on him. But still, definitely make sure you're taking advantage of this and getting these skills so he can do as much damage as possible. So let's talk about arts now. So, like I said, you get access to 6 arts total, so there's no variety in what you can actually pick here. But there are certain fusion combinations that can be really impactful. Rex's first art is Anchor Shot. This is a simple topple effect. It's not a very powerful art, but just having access to a topple at all on a positional art is really nice to have. It's also a callback to Xenoblade 2. It toppled in that game as well. Double Spinning Edge is probably going to be your most powerful and most spammable art. It's not the strongest power multiplier, but it is so spammable. It hits like 4 or 5 times, which means you can basically fully recharge it with just 4 critical hits based on the recharge art used by 30%. And that's not that hard to do with certain setups. Like I said, I can pretty much always get the recharge back with my current setup now as well, which is super nice to be able to do. Dual Blast is his final Agnes art. This inflicts launch when you attack the enemy from the side, and it's also one of your highest power multiplier attacks. Really good effect being able to topple and launch by himself. I really like the fact that he has access to these combos. I also like the fact that this attack is an area of effect. Really good arts over here. On the right side, or left side actually, sorry, we have Sword Bash. This will inflict resistance down, assuming you can actually inflict this debuff. Now, enemies still have pretty high and annoying debuff resistance, so being able to inflict resistance down means you can apply debuffs easier, but once again, resistance down also counts as a debuff, so it's still really hard to inflict in general. This is just kind of his most filler art, probably the worst one overall, but it's still an okay art. It's something to have and use Ouroboros fusion powers with, so that's nice at the very least. Cross Blaze is a really good art to team up with Double Spinning Edge because it has the shortest cooldown of all of his arts, meaning you can spam it even more. And it boosts critical hit rate against enemies when performing arts by 100%. So you're basically guaranteed to crit if an enemy is performing an art when you use it, although you're almost guaranteed to crit anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Power multiplier 340%, the recharge gauge 14 seconds, like I said, making it one of the best and spammable arts. And one particularly nice effect about the fusion here is that you will basically charge all of your arts when you use this fusion hit. So this is something that can be really nice to just spam your other 2 arts a lot faster. So I do really like Double Spinning Blaze as a fusion option. Rolling Smash is your most powerful art. It has a 19-second cooldown. It's just a standard area effect attack. Not much else to say about it than that. Now, there's a couple different fusion options you can have here. Rolling Blast is going to be the strongest possible damage option you can use in chain attacks since it's your 2 most powerful arts. And you also get more damage up when you're at high health, which can be really nice. But if you swap out Rolling Smash and Sword Bash and have Rolling Smash teamed up with Anchor Shot, you get the ability to both break and topple in one combo. I used this most of the game just because it was really beneficial to keep enemies basically combo locked, because I had access to 3 break arts when I did that. So Rolling Smash and Anchor Shot is a really good combination to consider. You won't do quite as much damage in chain attacks, but it's still really nice just for the utility that it offers, so I do like that combination a lot. There are some other combinations you might want to try out yourself. They all have unique effects depending on what you're doing, but I find these general loadouts to probably be the best. If you like other setups, you could probably work with them though, because Rex is just that broken and he can probably make anything work. Rex's talent art is Infinity Blade. This is a really powerful attack, 1050% power multiplier. And that's kind of it as far as the notable things about this. It says unblockable and ignores defense, but truth be told, you'd probably already be doing that anyway because of the other skills he has, so that's not really as powerful as it might seem as first glance. But it is a nice effect to have, especially if you're early on in the skill tree and don't have access to those abilities just yet, or don't have a super high crit rate just yet. For the rest of the setup, for his gems, I am running Empowered Combo 5. This will increase all of his damage by 45% when he's able to cancel into his arts. Cancel damage is an independent multiplier, as you know, to everything else we talked about, so being able to get even more damage from canceling your arts can be really impactful. Now, this does not affect chain attacks, which is where the bulk of your damage is going to come from for Rex, as far as when you're fighting bosses and really strong unique monsters. But even still, it's just a really strong damage increase regardless. Analyze Weakness just goes super well with his massive critical hit rate, gives you even more critical hit damage bonus. I think at this point I'm at, what, 2.65 normal damage, something like that? And it even gets more insane a little bit later, which I'll show you, which is really nice. And then I have Still Clear. This just increases attack by a flat amount. I don't have the level 5 version just yet, but I'll get it eventually, don't worry. Now, you might not be wondering, why not use Disperse Bloodlust? This will reduce aggro, and Rex seems like an aggro fiend. Well, I've tried that, and as it turns out, it just doesn't really matter. Rex is just going to do so much damage, especially if you're controlling him, that the tanks just cannot keep up no matter what. So, if you're just going to take aggro anyway, you might as well just do as much damage as possible, let your healers revive you, and then just go ham again until your chain attack's up, right? So I'm just going all in on damage because of that. You can also pray that you get combo locks with break arts and everything like that, so you can do as much damage as possible that way. Or you can just try to kill the enemy before they can kill you. So there's a couple different options there. For accessories, I am currently running a Fiber Wraps. This will boost damage of 105% when attacking launched enemies. Rex doesn't have a massive additive total, so this will increase his additive total a lot against launched enemies. You want enemies launched basically every time you chain attack, especially because of the Unity Strike system, Unity combo thing, because you will get a ton of additional damage from that as long as you are able to finish that on a launched enemy. Launch is really impactful and important in this game, so Fiber Wraps ends up being pretty impactful because of that. Rex also has the ability when you surprise an enemy and attack from the side before they attack, you instantly launch the enemy, so you're able to get a ton of additional damage out of this as well, just if you want to like kind of burst down normal, regular enemies that aren't unique monsters really quickly. I really like it because of that. It's a really good effect, a really nice additive increase. Silver Belt is just a general 25% attack boost. Now, I have heard there is a stronger version of this. I think the rings are also in here that they drop from like the final Super Boss. I haven't gotten there yet. I'm still level 88. But you should replace this with the strongest attack increase you have once you are able to. And then in my final slot, I have Warped White Brooch. This is essentially another type of independent multiplier that reduces enemies' physical defense 27 percentage points. Really impactful to have on someone like Rex, who's just stacking basically all the multipliers to do as much damage as possible. I really like this a lot. Now, you might be wondering, why not Thermo Headgear to get all the way to like 82% critical hit rate? Well, the thing is, like I already mentioned, because of my certain Unity skill, I basically already have almost 100% crit rate almost all the time. And when I have a certain crit rate up buff, it's basically 100%. So you don't really need this. It's basically overkill, so you want to just kind of stack damage in this case and just take advantage of the insane amount of damage you can get with Rex. Speaking of which, Unity. I have teamed Rex up with Glimmer for the Divine Blade Unity skill. I 100% believe this is the best Unity skill in the entire game. This boosts all allies' critical hit rate by 20% and critical hit damage by 50 percentage points. It does not stack, and that is okay. 20% is a percentage increase this time around. It also does not show up on the stat screen. So this puts Rex somewhere in the ballpark of a 80% critical hit rate bonus. And that's before Glimmer uses her crit rate up buff, which probably puts him at basically 100% no matter what, which is absolutely absurd. And it also increases critical hit damage bonus by another 50 percentage points. So Rex's critical hits are now doing over 3 times the normal amount of damage, which is absolutely insane, especially because he's basically critting all of the time. And he has a bunch of additive crit increases, damage increases as well. It just gets insane. I really love this. The Sacred Ray Unity combo, Burst isn't as powerful as Smash in most cases, but I've gotten to a point where in chain attacks I can damage cap Burst, so it doesn't even matter. It ends up being just as impactful. And outside of that, it still does a ton of damage and can still just destroy most enemies very easily because of the sheer amount of damage that I have. So I really like this skill. I really think this is the most optimal skill you can possibly have. Like, none of the other skills are bad, but they're just not an extremely strong party-wide effect like this that stacks particularly well with Rex. So I definitely think this is probably going to be what you're going to want to go for. But there's definitely some okay other effects here. You can get a 100% damage boost against higher level foes with Shulk. You can get 60% damage boost when targeting enemy weaknesses. You can get another damage bonus to toppled or launched enemies. You can get a damage bonus for active buffs. So there's some other good effects in here, but I really just think the critical rate and critical hit damage bonus is just too good to pass up. So that was a lot of information, and with all that done, let's take a look at how to use Rex practically. So, as I mentioned, it's very, very difficult to keep aggro off of Rex, and against really strong unique monsters, this technically counts as a super boss, I think, because of the amount of experience it gives and just being much stronger than most super bosses to this point. You are going to get aggro very easily. You'll probably die a few times. That's why on my healers, I make sure they have revival HP up and fast revive up so they can revive Rex quickly. All his aggro will be reset, and then I can go right back into canceling and spamming arts again with him. It's just kind of the nature of how this game works in a lot of ways. But if you can get breaks and keep them combo locked, it becomes a lot easier. Another really nice thing is the fact that while you are controlling Rex against this enemy in particular, you'll notice when I'm controlling other characters right now, they are doing pitiful damage. Physical damage is like nothing, right? I was doing like single digits there. Rex doesn't care about that. Every time he crits, he goes through defense. So he's able to do the full amount of damage when he's attacking. No other character can do that against this enemy because this enemy has an insanely high amount of physical defense. And you can just see the massive difference there between my attacks that don't crit and the attacks that crit. It's just, it's an insane difference. So that crit Pierce is really coming in clutch against this enemy in particular. So the general strategy in a lot of these super boss fights especially is build up your chain attack gauge and then go to town. Now the level 70 super boss kind of seals off your chain attack gauge, so I put a chaotic memory on Rex instead and just tried to kill him that way. So if you're wondering what to do about that, that's kind of my strategy there. But otherwise, you just want to get a chain attack and you want to get the enemy launch. And once you do that, as long as you have a really good setup for your chain attacks, you should pretty much be good to go. I'll kind of explain my chain attack setup as I go along here. You'll be able to see just how easily I'm able to do a lot of damage here. This wasn't even like a super optimal setup at this point either. So on Shulk, I have charged chain attack gauge. The reason I have this, it gives me an extra round of a chain attack. This is extremely important because it makes sure I can end the chain attack with the unity combo I want. I'm always able to pull Rex and Glimmer. So I don't have to worry about any RNG related to that, thankfully, which is really nice. I also have the... I changed this to Guarantee Amazing a little bit later, but I didn't have... Okay, yes, it's a Guarantee and Amazing already. This is nice because it essentially gives me a free Amazing on the first round. Gives me a bunch of extra damage ratio at the very start here. And also allows me to make sure I get Rex back. Now, ideally, I would start with Glimmer round 1, but I didn't see Glimmer in the lineup, so I just started with Shulk instead, just to guarantee that I could use 4 rounds of a chain attack here. So you can see Rex is already doing quite a bit of damage here. And Glimmer is going to lower the enemy's physical defense. This isn't going to make a difference, really, until we get under 0 physical defense on the enemy, because of the fact that Rex already pierces on crit. But it does, in the long run, increase damage here, because Rex also lowers enemy physical defense. That's his default ability, essentially. And I also have Battle Manual 1 on him, so he just gets a bunch of extra TP if he attacks first in turn order, which is nice. And I have increased critical hit damage bonus by 150 percentage points for Noah's completion, or Matthew's completion bonus as well. So basically all of my completion bonuses are really nice here to just do as much damage as I possibly can. And once Rex finishes, I'll get even more physical damage after this, so... Just a really solid order setup to make sure I can just get as much damage as possible in basically one round most super bosses on a launch here. You'll see that the burst is going to do a massive amount of damage once we get to that. And we got 2 rounds left. This is going to be the big Rex round. I also have, on Noah, I have a pairing Energy Revolt there. Will grant AoE Power Charge, which is really nice to use on some of the later rounds here to guarantee that Rex is going to hit really hard. And my other fusion here grants both crit damage and crit rate up. So by using that, I'm basically guaranteed crits, and I get even more critical hit damage there. You can see I'm like over 1 million on hits against this really physically defensive enemy now. And we get another Amazing, and I'm going to be able to finish it off with the Rex Glimmer combo here. And you can see his health is going down a lot quicker now. So Red Hot Aegis Light, I'm going to do, once again, Power Charge with Matthew. I'll use Glimmer to give myself crit damage and crit rate again. That's another fusion. It's my middle fusion here between, I couldn't see the names, but yeah, just there's a fusion there that'll give you crit power and crit damage. Just make sure you're looking at those. That's a really nice one to have with Rex. Crit rate and crit damage. Hit over 2.5 million there, as you just saw. And we're just going to absolutely annihilate the rest of his health and get a pretty nice overkill here as well. So I want to show off one more chain attack after this, just because it'll show off a really powerful chain attack and kind of another way to approach, well, the same kind of like strategy here, how to do these chain attacks, at least how I've done it. You can see the easy damage cap burst. I think I hit over 60 million with this chain attack, and I'm only level 81 here, which is really impressive. So I didn't really get the greatest characters to start off with here, but I tried to make the best of the situation I had. And I think I just ended up starting off with a Rex here. I usually like to save Rex's attack for later because he can do a lot of extra damage if you're able to save him for later, since his finisher combo is the most impactful just because of the sheer amount of damage he has. Like, he pretty much hard carries most all of these chain attacks. But my general strategy is still just build up TP on Rex and Glimmer and then finish with A. A is a guaranteed amazing because of what I have on her, or them. So, I always like finishing the first round to get that guaranteed amazing, get that damage ratio up, make sure I get both Rex and Glimmer back, and we're pretty much really good to go from there. So, I go ahead and use Shulk here just because I want to make sure that I don't get screwed over by any kind of RNG. I want to make sure I get that extra round, and I'm pretty much just good to go no matter what here. And I also don't want to use Glimmer yet, obviously, since I already started with Rex. So that means I pretty much am not allowed to use Rex there. I only use one attack with Rex this round to make sure I get him back, and also to build up his TP enough to where I can basically get a guaranteed amazing next round. And I'm going to be using Matthew next round to give myself the extra crit damage. I really like the setup I have. It's just really, I found it to be really good. As long as you can get the break launch on an enemy, you're pretty much set. I put break brooch on Matthew and Shulk to make that a much more guaranteed thing, or at least make it a lot easier to break the enemies. So you can already see I'm already doing a pretty significant amount of damage here. I end up just getting a Bravo here. I probably could have attacked with one other character to get an amazing, but I think I wanted to make sure I didn't attack with Matthew because I wanted to use Power Charge on both of the next 2 rounds. So I'm going to finish with Glimmer here. This will lower enemy physical defense even further. Power Charge with Matthew, crit rate, and crit damage with Glimmer, and then into Rex again. And we're going to do the same thing on the final round here. And once again, I'm using Rolling Smash plus the launch attacks with Rex to get a ton of damage. I just did over 5.6 million with one of those hits there. And we haven't even gotten to the final round yet. And we haven't even lowered his physical defense even further. And I'm only level 81, and I'm still not even optimized yet. So yeah, Rex is absolutely insane. He's able to hit damage caps like much easier than like any class from the base game, which is crazy to me. Like, because a lot of the base game attackers were already pretty strong, but just seeing the sheer power of Rex and how easy it is to hit, like not even maxed out, is pretty crazy to me. Like, you don't even need a smash. You could still just hit damage caps so easily with Rex with pretty minimal effort, honestly. That was over 9 million. That was almost damage cap. I was less than 1 million away from damage cap there, which is pretty impressive. And the enemy's already dead. We're going to get another big burst of damage here, and then an actual burst to finish off the combo here. And get a big experience bonus. I believe I gained like 4 or 5 levels from this as well. So big experience, chain attack, overkill bonuses are really nice. 62 million damage in that chain attack. I get like 100,000 experience there. Really, really strong. So Rex is just very versatile. He does a lot of damage. As long as you can get to the chain attack, you should be good. His main weakness is the lack of ability to deal with aggro, because your tanks just aren't really that great in this game. Or at least mine aren't right now, because I haven't really had a ton to invest in them. But even still, they haven't really felt the most impactful. But even besides that, as long as you can revive quickly and keep spamming, it doesn't really matter too much. Rex is just that absurdly strong that it doesn't even matter. So I think that's going to cover it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you learned something from this, and please look forward to all of my future guides covering the remaining characters. They're a lot of fun to use as well, even if they aren't quite as broken. I've been having a lot of fun just kind of optimizing setups and team synergy with the Ouroboros fusions. So please look forward to that. And once again, if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions, let me know. And have a wonderful and blessed day, and hopefully I will see you back here soon.